review. So who has had a chance to do their homework? Okay. Okay. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about, I think it's insightful, and since it's something that, related. Who wants to share either what you've detached from or what thoughts you've observed or values?
I haven't written that down yet. That's the only part. And one of the other three, one of them, I write my homework out.
Mhm.
But at work, I had the opportunity with my boss there, and I didn't want to do this, so I did this, and not saving it, and I didn't save it, and I exited, and I didn't finish that 1/3 question, so I have to pull it up, manas again, and write it down, and the attachment. I can share one of the other two.
Well, you can just share, what did you give up, or what did you try to give up?
I try giving up justifying myself, or always being right, or thinking that I'm being right.
That's hard for an Aries.
It's very hard.
So are you, as you observe it, are you catching yourself like when you go to do it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
I'm like,
just,
zip. So yes, that's one of the hardest exercises for me.
awesome. But just bringing it to the awareness, you're already changing. Because it's something that we do, everything we're doing is just so routine. We're just this mechanical man. And so the minute that we say, okay, I'm gonna just notice, observe this, it's like when you're gonna buy a car and all of a sudden everybody has that same car on the road. It's the same thing with your behavior. You realize how much you do it. So wonderful, very good.
Well, I gave up. I'm talking to one of my very, very good friends who I know since I was a baby, because my parents are best friends with her parents, but we talk every day, okay? And I think it's just, not that we love each other, but she lives in Oregon and I'm here, but then we talk too much, I think, because it's like sometimes we don't have, like when you talk every day, it's like a long time,
Right.
So I didn't tell her because I didn't want to, but I try to avoid calling her as often, and how this affected me, because you mentioned this has been years of me, like we are constantly in contact, and I don't know, I just think it was interesting, so I don't know, I feel like I have more time. I'm like,
I was just gonna say, I'm sure you have time.
suddenly it's like all that time that I'm putting into this, into for phone calls, and then sometimes it's just silly, like what did you do,
Right.
Most of the time, of course, it's nice and insightful, but it's when you talk every day, you don't have so much to say, right?
Yeah.
So.
And
Yeah,
sometimes it's just an opportunity to question, what is it this person's feeling a need?
Right.
Is it just because you might be lonely, or you might need, I don't know if you're in a relationship, or you might want a relationship, or you're missing your own parent.
Definitely.
There's some need, and so then you can start seeing, this, checking in is a need that I'm not feeding for myself, and then you can kind of go down that rabbit hole and see where you can use that time for just, even if it's just for yourself and being in silence, or doing something for yourself. Nice.
Well, mine was stop trying to control so much my daughter. So I learned now.
Did you learn anything? Please send it over.
So I'm kind of interested. I feel like sometimes I was empty, I didn't talk to her the whole day. She's working, she didn't text me, and it's okay, fine. I'm not gonna tell her why you didn't text me today. What's wrong with you? So, but it's getting better. Still, she's really, close to me, but it's not trying to text her,
Nice. That's hard. You guys have put out some real difficult
Yeah,
goals for yourself. And the thing with control, when you find yourself wanting to control others or control a situation, the first question you have to ask is, what in myself am I not in control of? Because that's all that is. So remember, it's always about questioning your thoughts, bringing it to the inward, to saying, what is it that's not being controlled in my own life, or what am I not in control of in my own life? Because it's the only reason we want to control something exterior. The only reason. Even when you're cleaning the house obsessively. That used to be me. So I always had this, well, as long as the house is clean, like impeccable. I had a ton of things to do. No, it was something in me that needed cleaning and tidying up, but I was doing it on the outskirts. So we always have to bring that to the inside. So that's, guys, you guys brought difficult ones. Right?
I didn't try to give up anything.
Okay.
I took some time off work just to finish the anatomy. Because I thought if I'm going to give up anything, it would be chocolate. But there's no way I'm giving up chocolate while I'm studying all this. I have to do homework. I just had too much going on. So I didn't even go there.
Okay.
But the value statements, which I haven't finished yet. But one thing that's been brewing is my family is very passionate about hard work and sacrifice. You know, it's like they value that so much above all else. I mean, even above rest in a way. And not that they would say that, but I observed that growing up. And in my life right now, I am just way too busy, and I don't like it. I really don't. So I'm trying to find a way to get out of that. And I remember, like, I used to not cook so much until I started doing Ayurveda. So I remember when I started cooking like 3 meals a day every single day, my mom was like, oh, Maritza's such a hard worker, you know, working full-time, taking care of the house, cooking every day. I mean, I became like this patron saint in my family, and she would talk about me to the relatives, but in a way I'm suffering. It's just way too much, and I don't like that, so I don't know, but that's what I'm working on.
But I told you that back in those days they didn't have fridge.
So her value system kicked in.
Actually, you did not tell me that. You left that out. Anyway, I've been freezing my food because I just can't.
You have to.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
I mean, even for a couple of days.
No, I do. I freeze.
And then you have to question, because this is what my clients hate about me. It's like, okay, we got this one. Well, now we have to go to the next layer. There's always layers and layers. Is which part of you wants to do everything right, correct, perfect, by the book?
Everything.
Okay.
I want to do everything
So
like an
that, okay. Like an artist, is that what you said?
artist. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting analogy that you use, because I would not say at all that artists are by the book.
Yeah.
On the contrary, it's
Yeah.
the creative spirit.
Virgo, so.
And she's got that right, the black and white there.
In the
A
sense
Virgo, Pitta Virgo.
of bringing my best to everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, recommendation.
Yes.
Define what the best is in each of these situations, because that's the other thing. We don't have a clear definition. When we say to someone hard worker, well, what does that mean? For some people, if you go to Europe, and that's the whole thing about the value. Hard worker, we're working in the day, we're working in the late afternoon, but we take a 2-hour lunch.
Right.
Who said that they're not hard workers? So the first thing, when you're gonna hold yourself, when you're gonna crucify yourself to that cross, which we all do, at least define, I'm gonna tell you a little, I'm in esoteric mode today, I'll explain where this comes into play. At least define what that means. So that, si te vas a clavar, if you're gonna hammer yourself to the cross, say, oh, it's meaning the definition of what it is. So let me tell you a little esoteric. So the symbol for the earth is the circle with the cross. Anytime you see this symbol, whether it's in an astrology chart, whether it's in a shaman thing, in any book, this is the symbol for cross. It's the cross of matter. Okay? The moment that we incarnate, we talked about this last time, we're in this body, we have to succumb to the limitations of the body, whereas the soul, we know, doesn't have the limitations, why we meditate and so forth. So why is the symbol of the cross the symbol of Christianity?
Because of the crucifixion.
Well, he was crucified, and it's every single one of us that crucifies ourselves with these patterns and these values, and we've never questioned where they come. And the reason that Jesus or any sort of ascended master, they transcend the cross of matter. And so what we do is we crucify ourselves on this cross, and we play martyr, and we play victim. You didn't do this for me. This always happens to me. And the minute that you're in that martyr or in that sort of crucifixion mode, you are already in that human, in that lower nature, which we'll talk about extensively with the chakras. So you put yourself on that cross every day. Mom, your daughter is Jesus. And we do this. We do this, and we want the applause, and we want the accolades, because look. But it's exhausting. Wouldn't you want the hammer to be like, I'm going to get myself down from here? Yes, we say we do. But the tools to do it are the tools that we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, which is questioning it. What value, what worth do you get from being that martyr, from crucifixion, from, oh my God, defending myself? There's something that you have to be getting out of. You never do something if the price isn't right. And we all have a price, and it may not be monetary, but there's a price. Why we do it for our children, for our spouses, for our family. We're getting some sort of payoff. So you have to ask, what is the payoff? And it might just be, all of a sudden my mother looks at me different. The minute, remember what I told you guys last time, the minute your definition of self includes someone else, you've lost your sense of self. You're no longer strong in your third chakra. And we'll explain why it's so important to have such a strong third chakra, why yoga focuses so much on the core, because it's the only way to then lift and work through the higher self. But the symbol of the cross of matter, why the number 4 is the number of the earth, if you're into numerology, it's always about hard working. It's always about the earth. We talk about the seasons. The elements are 4, the spirit is the 5th, but the elements of the earth are the 4. And it's because it's that cross of matter. It's those things that tie us to this life. So in order to get out of the wheel of samsara, keep coming back into a body, we need to transcend these things. And so we have to get ourselves down off the cross. We have to. And we are the ones that put us there. So ask yourself, what payoff am I getting? Or define for yourself at least, what is a good mother? What is a good friend? What is a good employee? What is a good daughter or a good Ayurvedic client? And then you have parameters to work with. Because if not, then you have no idea what the definition of what it is that you're trying to achieve. I had an employee once, and she's like, everything has to be perfect. And I'm like, Laura, there's no such thing as perfect. There's excellence. So if you want to have excellence, or if you want to do things right, or give yourself 100%, then define what that 10 looks like, or whatever number you give to it. And then remember the duality assignment, the plus and the minus, and what's in the middle. Give yourself a range. If hard working is defined as this, as a 10, well then, Maritza, you can give yourself between an 8 and a 10. Then you give yourself some wiggle room. That's where we hold ourselves. And what was the other story part of Jesus? That they beat him as he was carrying the cross. We carry our own cross. And we are ourselves. We are our worst enemy. We're the ones
Yeah,
getting,
so
I didn't do it, So if you give yourself, an 8 to a 10, and I will be thrilled if you're an 8. Is that enough for you? Your mom loves you regardless. Like, really try to see what it's serving to be that militaristic with yourself. Then you can start releasing yourself of the nails, of that sort of bondage. Because that's all this is. All we are is in bondage, in the body, in the thoughts, and all of it. So any little thing that can release us of a drop of being in bondage, we've already won. So, but those are great. You guys are really good. I'm working on sticking to my budget.
Oh, that's
Not that hard.
But I could do this the last year. I'm doing this for the last year of not shopping. And said I cannot write about this,
really
which is not a
trying
2 weeks
to work
thing.
on
This
that.
is like a 1 year thing. That I'm really working so hard because
It's hard. It's hard.
really hard. But
And the
I'm
number
doing
one
it.
thing is to be realistic. And so that's with you. Is it realistic that you don't call your daughter all day? You're gonna go to 0 to 100 or 100 to 0? There is a law in metaphysics called the law of rhythm. And it says that the swing to the right is the exact swing to the left. So here's your pendulum, okay? And so if you let your extreme of not calling your daughter, or never going shopping, or never fighting to be right, or never doing anything, the exact equal. So I have a dear family member who loves to starve herself or go on these really strict diets. Does amazing. I'm only eating fruits and vegetables. I'm super skinny. I look so great. And the binging that comes after, because the pendulum is all the way here. Of course, the disaster, the binging that comes after is the other extreme.
Right.
And I always show her the pendulum. I'm like, if you just do a little to the right, then when you mess up, it's just a little to the left. It's not a mess up, it's just the natural flow of the universe. Everything is always in motion. So that's why if we give ourselves a range, then it doesn't feel like, oh my God, we messed up, or whatever it is, the judgments that we give to ourselves. So we really, really need to start analyzing the thought, where it comes from, the value system. And I'm sure that culturally or religiously, I don't know what your lineage is, that comes from, who knows, hundreds of years ago, and you are still giving yourself eso because of those family members that you have no clue. It could have been like a little, town in I don't know what country, that these people were the only 5 people who worked, and from there they got their value, and that's been the passage of time. And no one ever thought to question why that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I just recently started questioning some things about like secrecy. I come from like a family where everything's hush, hush, hush. Everything's secret. I don't know if any of you know those families. Don't tell anybody. It's all I mean, everyone can see and here I am, this loudmouth that I'm like, I don't need to go on the street corner to scream. My voice is like, boom. Right? So everyone knows everything. I'm open book. And so I started questioning why all this secrecy. Turns out my ancestry is Turkish and Jewish. And when they went to Cuba, they were in an area where they couldn't practice Judaism. So they would close the doors, and when they would have Shabbat in quiet, in private, and they would sing, and they would have their feast, but everything was quiet. And so all of that was transferred. And Jews per se have always been kind of, outcast. So S-O-N, that comes from how many? And I'm like, that helps me to understand these people that I've always thought were so weird. Like, what is up with my family that everyone is so quiet? But so we can work it both ways, not only to understand ourselves, but to understand why others are the way they are. That's where that Ancestry.com and all that is very cool.
Yeah.
Because you can start seeing and understanding, why people have adopted the behaviors that they've adopted. It's not always with a malicious intent, but no one's ever stopped to question. So questioning the thoughts is super, super important. And it lets you live in this sort of middle rather than these upswings and downswings that most of us do, these extreme tendencies. So that's wonderful. And the fact that you're even thinking about it, you've already won. And we don't give ourselves enough credit. Okay. Anna, did you set that to record? Did you press record? Okay. So let's review a little bit from last week. So why do we study Ayurvedic psychology? What is the point of studying all these fascinating terms? Why do we need to know about the mind? Remember our roller?
Because the mind is a tool and we don't know how to use it.
Exactly. Your mind is a tool or an instrument, and if you don't know how to use it, then it uses you, it runs your life. So it's very important, okay? What's the definition of health?
Samatosha, Samahati, Samadhatu, Valakriya, Rasana, Rasana, Adinendriya, Manaha, Spata, Vikriyate.
Very good. So at the end is when we talk about the senses and the mind. So why are the mind and the senses so important? Why are they such an important part of a definition of health?
Why the mind and the senses? Because the mind controls everything.
Everything. So the mind is telling the body, if the body is just a gross manifestation of the mind is telling the body what to do. Through its thoughts, everything is manifesting in the physical. So a healthy mind or lack thereof will create illness or health. Okay. What is Ayurveda and what is Ayu? The Ayu part of Ayurveda. What's Ayurveda mean? The science of life. So Ayu is the life part. And what is necessary to live? If we're creating life rather than death, what 3 things are needed?
Mind, body, and spirit.
Mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
Yes,
It's
the
a
tripod. And what does that mean?
They have to be in balance.
Okay. So what's the
They're seeking
mind part?
balance, yeah.
Okay. The mind part is the control of
All the
thoughts
senses.
and the senses. The body, healthy practices, doing the things that we do, waking up at certain times, all of it in the chart, etc. And what about the spirit part of it? It's the key thing of the spirit.
Truth.
Truth, and
Being
how do
true to
you know
yourself.
your truth? By having what?
Experiential and witness.
Well, as a witness, you're observing that you're not the body and all of that.
Right.
But what is necessary in your life so that you know that you're living in truth?
Be committed to yourself.
Right, and what is that called in the spirit? It's to have a philosophy of life. So when you have a philosophy of life, like Ayurveda, and I use the example, who feels guilt and who believes in karma? We all feel guilt, even though we believe in karma, there shouldn't be really guilt. Because if we think everything happens for a reason and everything's,
That's
equal, guilt doesn't really play a part. So therefore, we're not honoring our truth or our belief system. Okay, so we need all 3. What is mind? Does anyone remember the adage? Mind is the one that what?
The realization.
Yes, that creates realization. So whatever it is that you think, that's the reality that you see. That's the reality that you live. Her reality and yours can be completely different because of the mind, the culture, the religion, the experiences, all of that.
Right.
What's Ubhaindriya? When we talk about the mind being Ubhaindriya.
Organ of perceptions and actions.
Yes. So it has us do things, it's also how we perceive things, and of course through the organs of the senses. So the motor and the perception. What are the Shreyas and the Preyas?
Things we don't have to.
But
But we are doing
but
that.
we should. Okay, remember Mark Twain said, if I did everything that's not good for me, I'd be healthy. That I don't do, I'd be healthy. Okay, so the Shreyas and the Preyas. Maritza would eat a lot of chocolate. That makes her very happy.
I ate so many muffins during that anatomy.
But she cooks 3 meals a day. Look at the contradiction. I ate so much, I forgot about Ayurveda when I was eating those muffins.
Oh,
But
yeah.
wait, Mom, I eat 3 meals a day. I cook 3 meals a day. That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do instead of saying, wait a minute. Okay, so that's a pendulum. Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding? I am like at this point that if I eat a beet, a sweet potato, and my green juice, I've had a good day. Like I am like everything else can be horrible, but I'm like okay. I'm like really like this. I mean seriously like this. Baby step. Okay. I mean I know we're on that. It's like so yes. So prayers totally wanting our sentence to be happy. Okay. Where's the mind located?
In the heart.
Okay, in the
Yeah.
heart, partially, or
All over.
all over. What Shrota?
And my mind is-
The Manavashrota. Okay, and then what does the Western think that the mind is located?
In the brain.
In the brain, and they think it's only limited to that. So there's obviously the intellect or the buddhi might be found there, but we know it's everywhere. Okay, what are some of the qualities of the mind?
That atomic structure.
Yes, the atomic structure.
Oh, see, it's
Very, very, very tiny. Single pointed, you can only do one thing at once. Ekatma.
Yeah.
Yes.
Constantly moving.
Constantly moving
Jumping
in
from
our
one
shape.
level to another.
Jumping, right, the monkey mind. In our little diagram today, we'll finish with our nadis and
Dualistic.
what else? And dualistic. Today we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's very, very important concept. Is the fact of duality and dualism, because everything is dualist. Everything. Very good.
So that includes like when you're happy and then suddenly you're sad. That's
It's always this. If you are to an extreme happy, then something is going to happen that is going to come of equidistance to that. That's why they say that the true person that has mastered their mind, or the true guru, doesn't have these shocks of high or low when anything happens. In that book, that Living Enlightenment book,
I love
there's
it.
this beautiful
Oh my
story.
God.
It's such a great book.
it's such a
I brought you 2 other books today. There's this beautiful story about this gentleman, and I'll massacre it, but just you'll get the gist. The guy gets into a car accident, and he ends up in the bed. And the people come and say, "Are you upset?" And he goes, "It's just what it is." Then he goes back to his village, or when he's at the hospital, the village is burned down. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, aren't you so happy that you were in the hospital? Because your village burned down." It's just what it is. And it goes like that, a series of things that something can be good, something can be bad, depending on the lens that you look at it. But the real master of the mind isn't having these major shifts. Something good or bad happens, it just is. That's why the saying of chop wood, get enlightened, chop wood, because nothing has changed per se. This throne, like I said last time, doesn't show up and you're like, oh, but you see things completely different. So if you're having this ecstatic joy, something is going to come and bring you to the other side. It has to, because everything is dual and everything is balanced. And the universe is simply looking for that sort of balance in everything, that homeostasis. So when you're getting really, really excited, I'm sure you see this all the time with people that win. Well, those people are going to lose just as much. And what happens
And
with
they expect
gamblers?
me to actually go with to go on those high, and for me, obviously I don't feel anything, but even so, it's like, they want everybody to get into
Of
that
course.
exam, and then you see them going really, really low, and then they see them getting angry, because it's alcohol involved. It's
But
even
you
worse.
see this all the
Constantly.
time. I mean, that's a really amazing sort of place to be, to see these shifts, because they're gonna lose equal to what they win. And if you really look at your life, that's how these things go. That's why change can only come with baby steps. Because then you can handle the fluctuations of what come. So it's okay to take a step or 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You're still ahead. Then you take another 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's the only true change and the only true shifts that you're gonna make. You're really not gonna make these drastic, changes. You see this in The Biggest Loser. They went back, and all the people that lost 200-300 pounds, they gained it all back. Plus, that's this law of rhythm in action and duality in people's lives. So that's another thing that you can observe, when or how far you swing with something, that it's gonna come back with a vengeance. That law we can't escape. The only way to escape, I call it what's called a mountain meditation that I give to my clients, is I have them meditate on a mountaintop, and I have them see like the 2 kind of polar extremes that the tendency is. And if they can stay kind of centered and focused and just rise above just a little, like that little mountaintop, then they can stop those major fluctuations. So you can just stop yourself, step back for like a second or 2 and think before you react, which is some of the stuff we talked about last time with the buddhi and really using that intellectual function that only humans have been given. Then we can make those small changes. But if not, we're just on a roller coaster ride of our emotions that ultimately is what dictates us. That's why the moon workshop is so, or knowing the moon in a person's chart is so important. Because that tells you the pattern of the default, how the person reacts to everything. It's fascinating. Unless they do the work, of course. So what are the 4 functions or the terminologies that we use with the mind?
Chitta,
Okay, what's chitta?
it's the inner. Yeah.
Yes, the inner mind. So it has 5 parts. Do you guys remember? And you don't have to, but.
Samskara,
Samskara chitta.
Oh,
So these things are
those are the ones with subconscious.
Right.
Superconscious.
Right. And you don't have to know all that.
I didn't
It's sort of the
study it.
terminology. But knowing that we create sort of like grooves in the mind or the memory that come from past lives, like samskaras, the vasana chitta, when we associate 2 things together. Anukarana, I told you that we used to have like organs of like clairaudience and clairsentience. Garana is when now finally we can transcend. Okay. What other aspects of the mind? So chitta is the inner mind. Manas is the what?
Man is
Man is the outer mind.
The outer mind.
What did
The
Ahamkara.
Ahamkara is the ego, and the buddhi is the intellect. So that's the terminology.
So we have 4, right?
Yes.
Chitta, buddhi, ahamkara, and
And then what's
And then
the soul?
Atman?
Atman, Jivatman, and Para.
Right, so the Atman is beyond it. That's the soul. Okay, it's not the mind. And I mentioned that in some different books, you'll read it as if it is, but for Samkhya, it's not. Okay. What are the gunas, the mental gunas?
tamas.
Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, yes. And which can get vitiated?
Rajas and Tamas.
Sattva can get vitiated. Okay. What are some of the mental disorders we would see in Vata, Pitta, and Kapha dosha?
In Vata, it's fear, anxiety,
Mood swings.
Okay, perfect. In Pitta,
Schizophrenia.
Anger, aggression.
anger, a lot of anger, aggression, competition, a lot of competitiveness. And Kapha,
Excessive sleep.
Attachment.
Complacency? Yeah, just, yes, attachment, hoarding,
Excessive
laziness, sleepiness, yes.
Depression.
Depression, yes. Okay.
I think all of them have the depression.
Okay, and what are the enemies of the mind?
And we have
Groups.
Okay, and what are some of those? Our favorite, Diana, our unicorn. I shared that with a client the other day. He loved it. Delusion,
Yeah.
moha, so close to moksha, but so far. What else?
Kama.
Okay, desires, lust, yes, absolutely. What
Greed.
else? Greed.
This is loba.
Do
Anger.
we need to know this in Sanskrit?
Anger, no. Okay, just the ones on your test.
Okay.
Yes, anger, greed, delusion, envy, jealousy, arrogance, pride. Think of all of like the 7 deadly sins and the things,
Yeah.
like the passions,
Mhm.
you know. Excellent. Okay, what do we know about the bodies? How many bodies are there?
3.
Okay.
Physical, casual, and also.
Okay, it's not casual, it's causal. Causal. So it's physical, subtle or astral, and causal. Okay. And what about the koshas? The Anamaya kosha is which one? The blue sheet. Okay, remember that kosha means sheath, and because sheath, these are the sheets, the coverings that are covering the soul. Okay, these are the things that we are not. Okay, what's the second one?
Pranamaya.
Pranamaya kosha, which is the air. Okay.
Manamaya.
Manamaya kosha, the mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Manamaya kosha. So the knowledge, so like the intellectual. And then
Yeah.
the
Anandamaya.
Anandamaya kosha.
There's another, in one of the books, there's the Jnana Maya Kosha, which is the intellect or buddhi.
Yeah, that's the one I said, the VI, I
Yeah,
never pronounce it, VIJ. Yeah. The Anandamaya kosha. And then even the Anandamaya kosha is what we're not. Okay, so these are all coverings the outline. And I mentioned that in the Vedas, it talks about it like a blue covering. So it's just gonna, that crystal, that outline is gonna take whatever color is kind of thrown on it, but we're that transparency, we're that observer, that witnesser.
And those are gonna be on the test.
Are those gonna be on the test? The test is very easy.
Yeah.
I already wrote it. It's very easy, but it is a lot of fill-in.
Uh-huh.
But it is easy. It's very straightforward, there's no trick.
There's no
There's never trick of them.
You just have to know what you need to know, right? Very fair. Okay, so let's continue with the energy body, energy anatomy. And it brought this great book. If you're into an energy anatomy like I am, this book is phenomenal. It talks about all the different systems. So you can read about the 9 chakra system, the 12, the Cindy Gale, the 12 chakra system, the shaman version, the Tibetan version, the Buddhist version. If you love this stuff, I do. Talks about the meridian, Cindy Gale. Very good. I highly recommend it. If this tickles your fancy, this is the best. And then this book you might have already have. It's a Frawley book, and it talks a lot about what we've talked about. Then some things that he goes off, but he talks about pranayama, some of the stuff that Anai's going to talk about in the yoga class. He talks a little bit about the chakras, colors, gems, a little bit about planets. But it's a nice kind of synopsis of Ayurvedic psychology, a good book. So I'm going to pass out this handout.
Oh, pretty.
Okay. So what is this? Kundalini. Okay, well, let's not jump ahead. Let's start at the physical body. What is it? What's it the symbol for?
Of doctors?
Yes, this is the symbol of medicine of the human body. And has absolutely nothing to do with the human body. Okay? But since 1902, I'm going to tell you, we're going to break down each piece. Okay? And I made it black and white so you can color it in because I know you love to color. So coloring assignment. So in 1902, this symbol was adopted as the symbol. It's called the caduceus. Caduceo. It comes from Greek mythology, and it ultimately is the symbol of energy and anatomy, which we'll eventually go into. But just so you see that every single symbol, and this is why it's so important, like this is my obsession. I'm obsessed with symbology.
Me too.
Because symbol is the language of the universe. When you understand symbol, you get this place. If you try to get it from here, forget it. But symbol is the universe, of the language of God. And so doctors have this all over the place. And they don't even know what it represents. And so, first of all, it's the caduceus that comes from Greek mythology. So I want to talk a little bit, I'm going to show you 2 clips from a movie, because I really want you guys, and I mentioned it last week, the Hercules, but I want you to see something. So the 2 serpents represent the duality in the body. And it's really important to understand the duality. It's also going to represent the Ida and the Pingala, which are the nadis. And the staff part is the part that represents the Sushumna. The little ball on top represents the pineal gland. And the wings represent the Ajna chakra and the intuition. So where does this come from? And I think it's so fascinating. So the wings are intuition, but it's also the Ajna chakra, the 6th chakra, which is a 2-petaled lotus. So it's the intuition. So there is absolutely here nothing to do with the physical body. Intuition. And the Ajna chakra, the 6th chakra, which is a 2-petaled lotus.
So the center
is the Sushumna. Yeah. So what happens?
This one.
The center column. No, that ball is the pineal gland. Okay? And that's where supposedly the Amrita is stored.
Yes.
And as yogis, when they touch the tip of the tongue to the palate, they can like have that drip down and nourish the Shiva Granthi. The Shiva Nandi. Okay. Shiva Granthi. Granthi. We're going to talk about the Granthi, but I didn't know about that one. So what happens in Greek mythology? There's this amazing god named Hermes, or Mercury. Okay? And he's born. And so the planet Mercury, he's born and he wakes up at about 2-3 hours old. And he jumps out of his crib and he looks around and there's a bunch of cows. And all of a sudden he's like, ooh, I can sell these and I can make money. He's 3 hours old, but he wakes up and he's like, I can sell these. So he jumps out of his crib and he starts walking backwards and he starts luring the cows and he sells the cows. These cows were his brother's cows. He didn't care, but he was smart. He kept 1 cow and he's like, this is the cow that's gonna get me out of trouble, because he understood that he was gonna get caught. Okay. So this caduceus, the entire thing is rooted in trickery and thievery. The wings are Hermes or Mercury's wing sandals. In mythology, the god Hermes or Mercury is the god of communication, the god of music, the god of trickery. So our entire medical system, look at the symbolism of this. The entire medical system is rooted in this concept that there's thievery or something to hide, some trickery. Hi, that's Jeanette. Hello. We introduced you earlier.
Okay.
Okay, so what is it that we're hiding from? What is this trick that we need to do? Let me finish the little story and then we'll talk about that and the importance of this, so that we can see why this symbol means what it means. So he robs all the cows, he sells them off, and he keeps one cow in storage for when he needs to get out of trouble. And of course, his father comes, his father is Zeus, king of the gods, and calls him and says, Mercury, come. What he does is he goes to the cow that he saved, he chops it off, he puts it on a little platter, and he flies up with his little winged sandals up to heaven, to Olympus. And he goes, I have a daughter that does that. Okay, Daddy. Okay, so we all get suckered, or we were all those little girls with our daddy. Okay, so you're all Hermes, you're all Mercuries. We all are. That's the importance of the symbol. All the guides, they were gonna get mad at him because he stole all the cows from his brother Apollo. They couldn't. He was so sweet and cute and so funny that they said, fine, you're off the hook. But you see that sort of intent. You see the Riku's there. You see that mind working, clever, trickery. And so the whole purpose of the mind is to keep us unaware of our true nature. And so in astrology and in mythology, Mercury's or Hermes is this god with the winged sandals because he never stays put, just like the mind. It jumps from one thing to the other. And he was the only god in mythology that was able to go to the underworld, to the hells, as well as to Olympus, to the heavens. Isn't that what your mind does to you? Isn't that the swing of the logarithm of the pendulum? You go from happy to sad, from angry to joyful. You're constantly. And so the number one thing that creates health that doctors do not know is the state of the mind and, of course, the energy anatomy. So they have it all over the world, this symbol of medicine, and it has nothing to do with the physical body. Yet what doctor ever asks you about your mental state? They don't. That's why this is very, very important to understand what it means. And those wings are the winged sandals of Mercury. And the number one thing that we do is that we lie to ourselves. When we were talking earlier, we don't question our values. We don't question where something comes from. We don't question why we do something. We don't stop and say, am I being manipulative in this situation? Am I being envious? Am I being jealous? Am I justifying myself because I always want to be right? This is not what people tend to do. But it is the only way to get health, physical health, is to question that. And so the part of our body, or the part of our mind, or the part in mythology, the part of symbology, is those winged sandals, or the monkey mind, or Mercury in mythology or in astrology, because it's the one that never lets you see who you really are. It's the mask that we all wear. And unless we stop and take off the mask and look at ourselves clearly and say, you are selfish, you are manipulative, you are egomaniac, you are this, then we have no chance of getting out of samsara, of getting off this wheel. We're going to continue crucifying ourselves, and we're never, ever going to get better. Physically healthy, mentally healthy, and spiritually healthy in terms of evolving. So it's very important, and it's so amazing because doctors, you ask them, they don't know. They know it's a caduceus, they don't have a clue. Okay, so this is important. So I want to show you 2 clips. You're going to have to gather because I don't have the projector. We'll set it up after for the chakra video. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a physical representation, a visual representation of your subconscious. So you can see what's down there. So you can have a visual. Then I'll show you a 4-minute clip and I'll explain the purpose of the serpent, the meaning of it, where duality gets into place, and why it's an important symbol. So let me find it. So this is a clip from the movie Hercules, and we're gonna see the video, the Disney version. Okay, so it's just about 30 seconds. There. You're gonna see the subconscious. Oh, okay. That's our subconscious. Muck. Gross. Now we'll see the monsters that live in our subconscious. That's what we have inside of us, dictating everything. Right there. That. Okay? That is us. Does anyone see themselves as that when they look in a mirror? That is not what we see. We make ourselves up and we do our hair, but that is it. That's the subconscious. That is really what lies in everything. In this is called the Hydra. So it's a version of a serpent or a snake, and why this is important, and of course the part of the energy anatomy that we'll study. And the Hydra was an animal that if you chopped off the head, two would grow back, okay? So just have a visual representation of when you're trying to be perfect, or if you're trying to control your daughter, or if you're needy and lonely, or you justify your behavior, or if I can't keep my budget. And that's the least of my concerns. Trust me, I've got 50 heads, okay? So we have a lot of heads going on, okay? And we'll explain why they multiply and the importance of that symbology, because it's super, super important. So let me find a little Disney clip. Right before the Hydra, where I have a commercial of how beautiful we are, okay? He's important, the little guy, I'll tell you that. So it starts with one head. Right? No, applaud too soon. Now you're going to see our inner judge.
Two pennies now.
Oh, you forget the head slicing thing. It's obviously not working.
Okay.
Looks like a happy ending, but it doesn't really